Welcome in, episode number 46 of the St0ner Sports Radio Podcast here on twitch.tv/ST0NERGAMER and on YouTube. Search St0ner Sports Radio. Joining me is Zach Huffman. As usual, we will go over week 2. We will give you our thoughts on week 3. Zach wants to talk about some NFL. We'll touch on that. Who's drinking all the Kool-Aid this weekend? And we'll visit the sports book as we normally do. Welcoming in Zach Huffman. How are we doing tonight, Zach, on this Be Happy Friday before a Saturday slate of college football?
We're doing good. Football is back. I mean, I'm feeling great because I just know exactly what I'm doing every weekend until February. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. So let's just jump into this, right? So week 2, full of some great games. We had some good ones early on. You chose a Friday game with Kansas and Illinois. Kansas gets the 11-point win, 34-23. That was your first win before the Saturday started in your parlay / individual picks / St0ner Sportsbook / we're still making money. Don't sleep on us. What were your thoughts on the Jayhawks taking care of Illinois?
I thought they looked pretty good, but I also thought Illinois is, really, really bad. So it's still hard to tell how Kansas is really looking this year. I think we're gonna see pretty soon how Kansas plays. Can they beat Texas again?
I don't know.
That's a big question.
Yeah, that's a big if at this point. Yeah, I don't think we know much. I think you are looking at a Kansas team that with the first game under his belt, Jalen Daniels two touchdowns, 1 pick, 277 yards through the air, looked pretty good. Obviously the pick doesn't look good. I mean, Kansas was up 28-7 at halftime and only scored 2 field goals in the third quarter, and the rest of the way was pretty much Illinois, 2 touchdowns plus 2 2-point conversions to try to give themselves a chance in this one, Zach. I mean, Illinois fought to the better end. They had the leading receiver for the game. It was their wide receiver Isaiah Williams, 6 catches for 99 yards. But on the ground, it was Kansas, right? It was all Devin Neal. 10 carries for 120 yards and a touchdown. That's 12 yards a carry. So the offensive line looked good against a really bad Illinois team. I think I agree. I think this is just a really bad Illinois team, and we just don't know anything about the Jayhawks at this point other than the fact that they're 2-0.
Yeah, other than the fact that they're 2-0, they're not going to. Jayhawks. They have this mystery kind of offense right now that nobody really knows how explosive it can really be, and they have a shot against a lot of Big 12 teams. I don't know. I don't remember exactly who all they play. I don't. If as an OU fan, am I like kind of terrified of playing Kansas if we have them? I don't know if we have Kansas. Yeah, we got them at the end of October.
Okay, so yeah. You'll have them at the end of October. They've got Texas in 3 weeks, so we'll kind of know how Kansas pans out. But they've got Nevada this week, and then BYU, which I think both of those should be W's. BYU might be a little tough, but it's at home, so that kind of gives them a little bit of a break. But they have to travel out to play the Wolfpack in Nevada, which is kind of a weird 9:30 p.m. Central, 10:30 Eastern kick for the Kansas Jayhawks. So that'll be a late game for them, and traveling obviously is going to be rough tomorrow. But I think those should both be wins. They should be 4-0 heading into Texas. And that should make that game interesting. That should make that game something that people will want to watch. And it kind of depends on how Texas does this weekend as well. Let's go ahead and head into the second game to talk about here. Let's talk about my Oregon Ducks here. 2-0. They escape Lubbock with a 38-30 victory over the Red Raiders, who are now 0-2. And we told you that this Red Raiders team was not for real. We knew that they were going to lose to Wyoming and Oregon. I didn't think this game was going to be as close as it was. It was 31-30 with under a minute to go. And, of course, Tyler Shuck throws his only pick of the evening, and it goes back to the house, and that kind of sealed it for my Ducks. I say that, but he had a Hail Mary throw that was almost caught in the end zone, and they could have gone for two and sent this thing into overtime. What was your takeaway from this game down in Lubbock between these two teams?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people are saying that Oregon's, not that team in the Pac-12 because of what happened in Lubbock, but I disagree. It's hard to go into Lubbock and win. That stadium's always rocking, and that Texas Tech team, they're not great. They're decent. I don't know if I'd call them good, but it's definitely hard to win in that environment down there in Lubbock. So it's tough. Do I think Oregon is the best team in the Pac-12 anymore? Probably not. After what I saw against Texas Tech, but it's tough to see. We'll be able to tell that when they play Washington. Is, in my opinion, who is the best team in the Pac-12 right now.
Yeah, I mean, my Ducks have Hawaii this week. They're big, big, big favorites. They're 30, I think it says 34 and a half or something ridiculous. The spread
Yeah.
is absolutely massive against the Rainbow Warriors, who aren't very good. I'll give them that. But are they as bad as Portland State? No, I think they're probably a tier above that. Yeah, it's a 38-point spread for my Ducks. So they cover that. They should. Should be like 49-7, maybe 56-10. I mean, it should be something around then if we decide to really put the pedal to the metal and try to get people back on board with what we're trying to do up there in Eugene. But I think this was a scary game for me. I was sweating it out. As I was leaving the stadium between OU and SMU, I was there and I was driving home and I was just sweating it out. We were down by 12 or something, and I was just like, I don't know. I don't know if we can get this job done. Texas Tech really showed some ability to compete against what I would consider going into this game elite competition, right? I mean, this is an Oregon team that, in my book, is supposed to take that fourth spot in the college football playoff. They're supposed to sneak in there. If they're not the four, they're the three with Florida State right behind them. I mean, that's where at least I had them. And I don't know if I feel very confident in that right now, Zach. I mean, like you said, I mean, this is a defense that is just holier than Swiss cheese. I mean, the quarterback runs for 101 yards and a touchdown. I mean, our transfer quarterback, the quarterback that didn't want to be there, that decided to go play somewhere else, ends up running all over us. I mean, sure, Bo Nix threw for 360 yards, but I mean, it just didn't feel like one of those teams where it's like, oh, here come the Ducks. I mean, this was a very hostile environment. We came in, we were down at halftime, 18-13. It looked like we were kind of, in trouble. And then what happens? Texas Tech outscores us 14-0 in the third quarter. I mean, just absolutely obliterates us. It's 27-18. I'm sweating, and we end up having a 20-3 fourth quarter, where once again we're talking about Texas Tech collapsing in that final frame. They collapsed against Wyoming. They collapsed against us. Is this a finishing problem for the Red Raiders?
Um, Likely. I mean, I just don't think they're that good of a team. I think they're lucky that they were at home against Oregon. They probably, if they're, you know, up there, playing in Eugene, I don't think that they even come close to winning. And like I said, I just think Lubbock is really kind of an area where it's really tough to win, and so I think that a little bit of luck. I think Oregon also just kind of played terrible, so I don't think they're going to have a game that's that bad again. And I don't think that their playoff hopes are entirely dead.
No.
I just now think that they have to prove themselves against some of these tougher teams.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we got to wait for, is tougher competition to really gauge where we're at. But the defense didn't look great. It kind of concerned me. Were we
Yeah.
really ready to play? I mean, we did travel, a long ways down to Lubbock. I mean, that's a pretty long trip. You can blame a lot of it on jet lag. You can blame a lot of it on not being, prepared and thinking, oh, they lost to Wyoming. This should be a cakewalk. I mean, I thought that we were kind of showing symptoms of that, where it's like we weren't really taking the Red Raiders seriously. And then we look up and it's like, damn, like we're losing to this team 27-18. Like we're down by 9 and we got to get something going. And sure enough, the defense stepped up in that fourth quarter and only allowed a field goal. I mean, props to the defense for actually bending and not breaking when it mattered. But yeah, I mean, I think the takeaway from here is Texas Tech is a team that can compete with teams on a weekly basis, but they just can't finish the job right now. And this is supposed to be the week where we're supposed to see Texas Tech get on the board with a W, as they go into tomorrow to face a Tarleton State team that is just absolutely terrible. So this should be the first win of the year for Texas Tech, no doubt. Um,
You better hope so
yeah,
as
you
an
better
Oregon
hope
fan.
so if you're a Red Raiders fan. Um, So let's, as I was saying, I was going back home from the OU game. Let's talk about the Sooners here. It's 14-11. Sooners are up by 3 in the fourth quarter. They run the ball in this game against the SMU Mustangs 49 times. They only throw it 19 times, but most of those times come in that fourth quarter, where they outscore SMU 14-8 and end up getting the win 28-11. It wasn't very impressive in my book. I thought that this should have been one of those games where OU gets the job done by the spread total, which they did cover. They did cover the 16.5 point spread, and you took the under, and that definitely happened. I mean, this was definitely not Jeff Lebby's best called game. There was a lot of controversy around his father-in-law being on the field that people have kind of swept under the rug before tomorrow's game happens, and I get that maybe some lines were crossed by Jeff Lebby, according to Joe Castiglione, the athletic director for the Sooners. But let's talk about the game for the most part here. What was your takeaway from the Sooners? Obviously, they ran the ball well enough to get them to a certain point here, but I mean, is it really the defense that we're supposed to be talking about holding this Mustangs team to 11 points here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the highlight of this. I mean, this is a really good offense you have over here at SMU, and I thought the defense played really well. Once again, they're tackling really well, just as they have been all year. So it's looking. I'm really happy as an OU fan to see this defense. Now, I thought Dylan Gabriel didn't look as good as he could have because they actually threw the ball 27 times. He just
Okay,
had
okay.
19 completions. So it wasn't, he wasn't as efficient as he should have been. And that's also due to the receivers. I mean, Andrell Anthony is like the only guy that caught more than 3 passes, I think. He had 76 yards, I think is what I just saw.
And one
And,
of them, yeah, and,
obviously,
and most of those yards came in the first quarter on that long touchdown pass that started it off for them.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Um, But I mean, Dylan Gabriel still distributed the ball really well. A lot of people, caught had at least 20 yards. I guess I can look real quick just to check that. Let's see. One, we had 4 receivers over 20 yards, and Stoops had 17. I mean, and then we had 4 touchdowns, each one going to a different receiver. So he's distributing the ball really well. I would like to see more production out of a true wide receiver one. And obviously, Tari Walker is really, really good. Um,
But still no Gavin Sawchuk that last week either. We're gonna see him against Tulsa tomorrow, but no Gavin Sawchuk yet, so we don't really know if Walker's
he actually had
gonna.
1 yard.
Did he really?
Yeah, he had one carry for 1 yard.
Okay, so he played one snap then.
Yeah, it looks like it. I don't
Well,
remember that.
yeah, I don't remember him getting a touch at all. Maybe I don't know if that's right, but I mean because after the game they were talking about that he wasn't on the field at all. So I don't know if that's accurate that he had a yard or not. If he did, then I mean he was in there for literally one play and they were like, he's not ready yet. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah,
kind of
I'll tell you what though, I didn't like. I really didn't like seeing Jackson Arnold going out there to run the ball.
oh yeah, talk
Um,
about that. The
yeah, I
the
didn't like that.
jackhammer baby, the jackhammer
Like,
formation.
why are why are we risking one injury doing that? Like, he's our only like obstacle right now between Davis Bevel. So we need to avoid him getting hurt. I don't
Yeah.
understand why he's coming into the game at
I
all.
think it's to keep him
Um,
happy. I think it's to keep him from saying he's not getting playing time. I think it's to keep him here because I think he wants to be involved. That's what I was hearing was this is him. This is the coaching staff trying to show Jackson Arnold, hey, look, we're trying to keep you happy by involving you in these fourth and shorts or these third and shorts. And he didn't even get one of those fourth and shorts. They turned the ball over on downs on one of those plays, so it's not like this is the belldozer where nobody can stop it.
yeah, but I mean, I just wish they would let him throw it if they're gonna do that.
I think that okay. Here's what I think is going to happen, and this is what they were saying too: was they're going to have him run out of that formation until the Texas game, and then they're going to show it in the Texas game, and they're going to throw it. They're gonna make Texas think that when Jackson Arnold is on the field in this formation, it's a run. Let's just send 9 guys, and then what's he gonna do? He's gonna pull it and he's gonna jump past that shit like some Tim Tebow crap, and it's gonna go 70 something yards for a touchdown. That's what I think Jeff Lebby is trying to set up by playing these lesser teams and being like, in fourth and short or third and short, let's run him out there and have him just do a quarterback sneak. That way, every time he's on the field, they can be like, here comes Jackson Arnold. He's just gonna run it up the gut. Let's just try to submarine this offense offensive line and push them backwards. I mean, that's my thought process. I don't know if I'm right, but I mean, that would make more sense than just having him out there to just be like, oh, we just don't want his parents to get pissed.
I just I just don't like seeing him out there at all. I mean, there's really just no need for it yet. I mean, if it's to keep him happy, I mean, I guess whatever, but why can't we just put him in when we're already up by like 4 touchdowns? Why are we putting him in there to get like convert on 4th and short when we can just put an actual running back in, or we can I don't know, do something with Dylan Gabriel instead.
I
Like
mean, for fuck's sake, put
eh,
Austin Stogner back there and have him run a quarterback sneak. I mean,
yeah, like seriously,
you
why are we
you
doing it with
have
Jackson
other
Arnold?
options.
Yeah, and I get it, we need to keep him happy just to, like, make sure that he stays around for next year, but it's not worth the risk, the injury risk that comes with, having him not only, like, come in at times that he doesn't need to come in, um, but having him run the ball like that when
Yeah.
he comes in.
I mean, one
I
needed
I
a
would
helmet and
prefer
it's
to see
over.
him throw it. Exactly.
Yeah.
I would prefer to see him throwing the ball because I think that's what he's more talented at, if we're gonna showcase him at all, and I don't I don't particularly like the idea of him playing in the Texas game because, to be honest, I don't think that him if even if they do, like, some sort of surprise where he, like, jump passes or something, I mean, I just don't think it's worth putting him out there. I'd rather, lose against Texas than have Jackson Arnold get injured.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I get that. I think that's, I think that's a valid point, and I think you're not the only OU fan that's thinking that. I guarantee you that. I don't think that
oh, yeah.
I don't think that there's a huge consensus that's like, oh, we need to have him out there. What's concerning to me from like an outside perspective, from someone that's not like a diehard OU fan, is if you're having to do this to make him happy, that's kind of concerning. Because like I thought this
Yeah.
dude was a lock to be like, oh, I'm fine with sitting behind Dylan Gabriel. If he gets hurt, like I know I'm the guy. And I know that Jeff Lebby's gonna run Dylan Gabriel more because he's got me behind him and he feels more secure about losing Dylan Gabriel for injury. Let it be 2 or 3 plays or 2 or 3 games. Like he feels confident in me. And I feel like that's more concerning if that's the case. Now, if the other case is
Yeah.
just we're trying to play head games with Texas, I get that too. But it's like, do you need to? Not necessarily. Now, if they don't do it at all against Tulsa this weekend, then I think that again, you're looking at Jeff Lebby just setting up smoke screens, and that's great. I mean, I guess I can live with that if I'm an OU fan. I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that we coasted to a 17-point win. I don't like the fact that we didn't throw the ball at all until the fourth quarter when we needed to, create separation. But at the same time, it's like these first 2 weeks for OU, I feel like has just been a giant petri dish. Like we're just testing things. We're not showing really anything. We're still trying to figure out this running back depth chart, which is astounding to me because I mean this is OU we're
Yeah.
talking about. This isn't Kansas State. This isn't Iowa State. Like you should have somebody that's your number one dog in that stable. And right now it's Tyree Walker, but it's like is he
Yeah.
really the guy? Like is Tyree Walker really supposed to be the guy? I mean, obviously we'll get more carries from Gavin Sawchuk tomorrow, but I think it's just one of those things where it's just like you have to have some knowledge. Like, and what the fuck is going on with Javante Barnes? Like, they had him out there. They say
Yeah.
they say they say that he's completely healthy for this week, which means that when he was saying his knees were hurting when he was cutting, that was definitely a problem, which is it's so concerning because he's so explosive. Like, if he can't cut without his knees hurting, like what are we doing here? Like, do we need to inject some more cartilage into those knees every game? Like, what are we doing to try to help him as a running back? Because when we saw him in the Cheez-It Bowl, we saw him throughout last year. I mean, he was one of those guys where you're like, man, like when he's the guy that's getting a lot of the carries, like he's going to be dangerous. But now it's like, are we even going to see him on the field for any meaningful snaps if Gavin
Yeah.
Sawchuk ends up being, if Gavin Sawchuk runs for 120 yards tomorrow, we may never see Javante Barnes in a game until like the third or fourth quarter in a blowout, which is
And
astounding
you
to
know what
me.
that and you know what that's gonna end up looking like? That's gonna turn into something like the Trey Sermon situation, where Trey Sermon ends up transferring somewhere else and putting up like 300 yards in a playoff game. I mean, god damn, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ohio State
So,
was not complaining about that.
yeah, so I
or
would like to
or
see,
Keith Ford, Keith
Javonte
Ford
Barnes
going
play
to
more.
Texas A&M. That was another big one. I mean, Keith Ford was
Yeah.
fantastic. Goes to Texas A&M. They underachieve as hell, but him and what's his nuts were still down there, producing for that team. And so
Yeah,
I mean I think that was another guy that you probably would have wished they would have been able to keep around. Um, I mean, and if NIL would have been a thing, they probably would have been able to keep both of them. I'll be honest. Um,
exactly.
um,
But yeah,
let
I just want to see more of Javante Barnes against Tulsa if I can. I mean,
yeah,
if he's hurt, then yeah, keep sitting him.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I want to see him. I want to see what we got here. You know what else I'd like to see? I would like to see them hand the ball off to Gavin Freeman more. Um,
Yeah,
I think that's a good idea. I think he can move between the line well. So
he
might as
had
well give
some
him a try,
ugly
right?
drops. He had some ugly drops
He
last week,
did. He
and I
did.
mean wide open drops on like drag routes where you're like, what are you doing, Gavin? Like that's supposed to be automatic.
Yeah,
And he dropped that one.
exactly.
He
He
dropped
doesn't
that
have
one
those
ball and they
hands.
never looked at him again. He dropped that one
He
pass
doesn't
and they
have receiver
never looked
hands.
at him again. Yeah,
You know what
he's
he's good for? He's good for check
jet
downs, he's
and
good
jet
for
sweeps.
jet sweeps.
Yeah.
Yep, he's good for punt returns, he's good for kick returns, and if you can hand him the ball if you can hand the ball off to him, you might as well, right?
I mean,
So,
why isn't he just taking it out of the Wildcat on those 4th and 1s? I mean, you might as well have him do
yeah,
that. I mean, I just don't understand that logic. But Sooners get a win. They cover. Great teams cover. We'll see if they can cover against Tulsa tomorrow. They should. Tulsa got
28
absolutely,
28 points.
yeah, absolutely tallywhacked by Washington. But that game was closer than it should have been probably early on. So we'll see if Tulsa can kind of muster some of that same energy early at home. But let's move on here. Georgia beats Ball State 45-3. Nothing really to take away from that. Michigan rolls over UNLV 35-7. Florida State gets the win over Southern Miss 66-33. Ohio State gets the win over Youngstown State 35-7. USC over Stanford 56-10. Penn State destroyed Delaware after only being up a touchdown after one quarter. They end up winning 63-7. As we said, Washington got tallywhacked 43-10 by Washington. Tennessee beat Austin Peay 30-13. Notre Dame got the win over NC State by 3 touchdowns, 45-24. LSU destroyed Grambling 72-10, so a great bounce back game for the Tigers. They needed that. Kansas State gets the win over Troy 42-13. Oregon State beats UC Davis 55-7. Washington State beats Wisconsin by 9, and that was one of the ranked teams that went down 31-22. What was your takeaway from Tanner Mordecai losing his first game in a Wisconsin Badgers jersey?
It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. But he's never been that guy. He's kind of like a journeyman in the NFL, backup quarterback that you can just kind of trust with the ball. But not today. Not today. And we said this in the before the season started that Wisconsin was kind of one of those mystery teams that nobody was really sure about, and I think we're kind of all in agreement now that Wisconsin's going to maybe make a bowl game if we're being honest. Um, Speaking of just like the Big Ten in general, though, one thing that I want to take away from the Penn State game that you mentioned earlier is that I think Penn State is kind of in the position now. I was like,
Hmm.
they might be the favorites in the Big Ten. Um, and I think we had to have a serious conversation of them being in the playoffs this season.
Yeah, I mean they're looking like they need to have a great showing against Ohio State here in a couple weeks. If they can get that
Yeah,
win by double digits, I think we can sit here and say they're for real, and that Michigan needs to watch out and and count their blessings and hope that some things fall in their favor. Or I mean, like you said, we might be talking about Penn State and not Ohio State or Michigan, which I don't think me and you were thinking about when this season started. Especially you with having
no,
Michigan as highly touted as you did. So we'll see how that kind
yeah,
of pans out. But so far, so good for the Nittany Lions, and so far, so good for the Washington State Cougars as they are 2-0. Who do they have this week? I'm gonna pull it up real quick. They have Northern Colorado this week, so that should be a W again. They should be 3-0 heading into that game against Oregon State, and Oregon State has to travel to Pullman for that, so that'll probably be Oregon State's toughest matchup to date. Not this week, but next week.
yep,
So something to watch for there in the destroyed Pac-12. Another ranked matchup that happened: Tulane and Ole Miss. Jackson Dart throws for 267 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Ole Miss beats Tulane 37-20. This game was kind of close. heading into the final frame. It was 17-17 at the end of three, and Ole Miss outscores the Green Wave 20-3 in the last quarter, just like Oregon outscored Texas Tech 20-3 in the last quarter. So, this is one of those games where, again, we're looking at Tulane as, being the 24th ranked team in the country last week. Ole Miss as the 20th. Obviously, Tulane falls out of the top 25 with that loss. But, I mean, should we be sleeping on Tulane for the rest of the season? Probably not. But what does this mean for Ole Miss?
I think it means that they look pretty good. Um, I think that they have a really good quarterback situation going on right now, where I think it's really similar to kind of OU situation where if Jackson Dart goes down, you're very comfortable with Spencer Sanders coming in and being able to win it. I think that offense is really humming right now, um, and like you said, 20 outscoring the opponent 20-3 in the fourth quarter is a big deal, especially when you win the game by 17 points. So that's pretty much exactly what you needed to do. So I think that Mississippi, they're not going to finish the season in the top 20. I don't think maybe top 25, but not top 20, just because of the situation they're in SEC wise.
Yeah.
But I think that they're a good football team, and I think that they'll be fun to watch in a bowl game.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely a team with Lane Kiffin at the helm that is never going to be a tough, never not going to be a tough
Yeah,
opponent to try to go up against, especially for the big dogs in the SEC. Duke gets the win over Lafayette, 42-7. Clemson gets the win over Charleston Southern, 66-17. Must needed win for the Clemson Tigers coming off that embarrassing loss to Duke. So both of
oh
those
yeah,
teams look. I mean, both of those teams have elevated themselves as still contenders in the ACC. Wake Forest gets by Vanderbilt 36-20. I mean, Vanderbilt's just terrible. I mean, I just can't
terrible.
I can't tell you how bad Vanderbilt is. Army gets the win over Delaware State 57-0. Army puts up 57. That might be the most points they put up all season long, and they just took it to the Hornets. Um, what was another? Some other games that went on that were exciting down to the wire. James Madison beats Virginia 36-35. A lot of people had James Madison winning this game. If you had the money line, congratulations. If you had the spread, that's rough because they were favored by more than a point. What was your
Mm.
takeaway from Virginia being 0-2? And I mean, are they just like the bottom of the ACC right now?
I mean, I guess so, because I'm gonna be honest, I haven't laid a single eye on Virginia this season. Um, I haven't seen a single snap of Virginia football this season whatsoever, so I'm guessing they're terrible. Um, it looks to be like they're terrible. Um, I haven't, but like I said, I mean, I haven't focused on them whatsoever. But yeah, I guess they're at the bottom of the ACC, and doesn't really surprise me whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean the shocking part is
Yeah,
just James Madison with their first year in D1. They're 2-0. They look like they've got a good
yeah,
slate of games ahead of them. I think South Alabama will probably be their toughest competition here in about two weeks. I think. So I mean they're the Dukes are looking good in their
yeah.
debut,
And
and that's
I've been to that campus. It's a good campus. It's a
yeah.
nice campus.
There you
So
go. There you go,
I,
Dukes.
w- they have a lot going for them.
Yeah, hang your
It's an
hat.
old campus. Did you know that?
Oh, I'm
It's like
sure. I'm sure it's
350
ancient
years
as
old.
hell. I mean, when you name it a team after like a president or something, like it's ancient as hell. I mean, that place has
Yeah,
been
it's
around
like
since
actually like 300
1810.
years
Yeah,
old or
like
something.
1810. Um, another close game that a lot of people thought would go not the way of the ACC was Holy Cross and Boston College. Boston College eking out the
Yeah,
win in the end, 31-28. But a lot of people picked Holy Cross in this, and they were not very disappointed as Holy Cross was up 21 to 14 in the or sorry, it was only down by 3 for most of this game and then went up 28-24 early in the fourth quarter, and then Boston College got a touchdown in the end to end up saving what could have been disastrous. So I think Boston College and Virginia, probably that's going to be a good game, right?
I guess so. And I'll tell you what, one thing I noticed from that game was Holy Cross. That's a football school.
Yeah, yeah, baby.
I did not realize that
Yeah,
that school got
they're
that rowdy in that stadium.
yeah, their quarterback ran for 131 yards and 2 touchdowns off of 19 carries. Um,
Yeah. They
They
look they look good.
Yeah, that was definitely a game where it I mean, both of those teams are not fantastic. But I think that entertainment wise definitely was one of the best watches of the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Kentucky, they had a tough one against Eastern Kentucky. I mean, the Colonels of Eastern Kentucky gave them quite a scare. An 11-point win for Kentucky, 28-17 over Eastern Kentucky. What was your takeaway? Devin Leary, 4 touchdowns and a pick, almost 300 yards throwing. So statistically, you're like, okay, that's a good showing. What happened with Kentucky to make this game closer than it probably should have been?
I'm not too sure. I didn't really catch this one either, but if I had to guess, it's probably Kentucky's defense. I imagine that they weren't too sharp, and I hate to say it, but that's just because I happen to know who the coach is.
Yeah.
Um, and Mark there has not always been the best at defense. And that kind of just runs in the family. For being completely honest, besides Bob had a good defense, obviously, in every scenario that ever existed because Bob Stoops is perfect. Um, but I feel comfortable saying that it's probably a bad defensive showing by Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that's probably the problem. I mean, the offense couldn't have been going as smooth as those stats also show. I mean, 4 touchdowns, no points in the first quarter. It was 7-0 Eastern Kentucky at the end of one quarter. So the Colonel's defense was either very stout or Devin Leary was just a really slow burner as far as getting the offense going. Um, but it definitely was a concerning look for a while for Kentucky. So I think they're definitely a lot worse than I think we thought coming into the season. If we want to go by the standards they've set so far for themselves,
Yeah,
BYU rolled over Southern Utah, 41-16. Iowa got the win over Iowa State, 20-13. I don't really think there's much really to tell there. Um,
20 points, 20
yeah,
points from
20
Iowa.
points for
Let's
yeah,
go.
yeah. That's monumental. Michigan State with a 45-14 win over Richmond. They've got Washington this week. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Uh,
Oh, and Mel Tucker.
yeah, we'll talk about good old phone sex here in a minute.
Oh,
Um, Syracuse with
he
a
got in
48
trouble.
to 7 win over Western Michigan. Miami of Ohio beats UMass 41-28. UTSA with the win over Texas State 20-13. So Texas State, after beating Baylor, can't beat the Roadrunners. That's a rough letdown for the Bobcats. Navy beats Wagner 24-zip. So technically, most of the military schools outscored their opponents like 78-0 over the last weekend. So good look for the military. Southern Illinois, they beat Northern Illinois 14-11. I would say that's an upset. Northern Illinois usually not a slouch, but that's a rough loss to the Salukis, especially when you're the home team. At Northern Illinois was that's a big rivalry upset there for now the 2-0 Southern Illinois Salukis. So hats off to them. Toledo just
Sayou.
yeah, Toledo just destroyed Texas Southern 71-3. Arkansas beat Kent State 28-6. Marshall beat Eastern Carolina 31-13. San Jose State 59-3 over Cal Poly. And Wyoming took care of Portland State 31-17. A lot closer than my Ducks took care of Portland State with that 81-7 victory. But Wyoming 2-0. They have Texas this week. We'll talk about that here in a minute. South Alabama with the win over Southeast Louisiana, 35-17. Liberty with the win over New Mexico State, 33-17. West Virginia destroys Duquesne, 56-17. Georgia Southern the win over UAB, 49-35. Ohio over Florida Atlantic, 17-10. Casey Thompson not looking good in that one. Old Dominion, the win over Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns 38-31. Akron over Morgan State 24-21 in a thriller. Fordham over Buffalo 40-37. Huge loss for the Bulls. That should have been a W for Buffalo. Florida International beats North Texas 46-39. And Cincinnati beats Pittsburgh 27-21. The newcomer of the Big 12 2-0 and a good win over a decent Pitt team, but not a great one. Coastal Carolina hands Jacksonville State its first loss, 30-16. Georgia State beats UConn 35-14. Louisiana Tech over Northwestern State 51-21. Missouri escapes Middle Tennessee 23-19. Um, look, Zach. I mean, we had Missouri fans that thought this was going to be just a gun ho great team. I mean, they almost lost to Middle Tennessee. I mean, do they have a shot at Kansas State this weekend? I'm going to say no. We'll talk about that
Absolutely not.
in a minute. 52-22, Western Kentucky over Houston Christian. UCF, another newcomer to the Big 12, gets another win over Boise State, a tough Boise State team that's played everybody pretty tough, 18-16. A 55-yard field goal at the end to win it for the Knights. Rice, a upset over Houston, 43-41. Huge win for the Owls. Are the Owls better than we thought they were? You know, you were trashing them after. Well, you weren't trashing them. You were saying they were good after Texas kind of escaped with a win over them. Is Rice, going to be a force this year in their conference? I mean, they're looking pretty good.
I guess so. I guess so. I mean, they're cooking. I mean,
Um,
like I said, I thought that they were a worse team than Arkansas State before after week 1, but I guess I was wrong on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I think that was what you said. I think you might be wrong about that. South Florida over Florida A&M 38-24. Memphis beats Arkansas State 37-3. Yeah, I think that just solidifies how bad Arkansas State is. I mean, Memphis cooked you, and Memphis barely escaped last night against Navy. So I mean, this is an Arkansas State team that I think is going to be in the toilet of the Sun Belt if they don't try to turn something around. Butch Jones is in trouble out there in Arkansas State. Idaho over
Did he
Nevada.
cry?
What? I don't
Did
know
he
if he cried. I
cry?
don't know if he cried this week. I probably would
Oh,
have if I was him in private. I think it's okay to
I
publicly
would.
cry against Oklahoma, but I don't know about publicly crying against Memphis.
Well, I would wonder if you can bet on that.
Yeah, I wonder if is that a prop bet if Butch Jones cries because I think it needs to be. Um, this was kind of a
I would say
surprise.
I would bet on third quarter.
Yeah, yeah, third quarter crying from Butch Jones. What's the plus 1200 plus 1200 on Butch Jones crying in the third quarter? Um,
I'm gonna
uh,
go under 2.5 headphones
yeah,
broken.
yeah. This one was kind of a surprise to me. Idaho gets the win over Nevada, 33-6. Nevada's got to be god awful. I mean, they couldn't hang with USC, but that made sense. But Idaho, I mean, you gotta beat Idaho at home. They couldn't do it. Florida beats McNeese State 49-7. Maryland disposes of Charlotte 38-20. Minnesota over Eastern Michigan 25-6. Mississippi State over Arizona 31-24 in a thriller. Rutgers over Temple 36-7. South Carolina gets their first win of the year 47-21 over Furman. UCLA takes care of San Diego State 35-10. Air Force beats Sam Houston 13-3. So there you go, another 13 points for the military academies. They've only allowed 3 points last week, and so a good showing for them between all three of those military schools. TCU gets their first win 41-6 over Nichols. UL Monroe is 2-0. They win over Lamar 24-14. New Mexico gets their first win of the season over Tennessee Tech 56-10. Utah State over Idaho State 78-28. Fresno State over Eastern Washington 34-31. Auburn sneaks away out of Cal. They win against the Bears 14-10. And Albany loses to Hawaii 31-20. But here are some games we haven't talked about that we're going to talk about here a little bit in length. We'll talk about this game because it was one of the kind of more exciting games to talk about. Miami beats Texas A&M 48-33. The 23 ranked Aggies falling out of the top 25. Another year, Zach, where Texas A&M underperforming, and Mario Cristobal, former Oregon head coach, looking at a 2-0 start for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, yeah, they don't look too bad.
Um,
Actually, 3-0 because they won yesterday.
yeah, that's right. And they're 3-0 now.
Yeah.
And Colorado just absolutely dismantled Nebraska 36-14 at home. Coach Dion gets his first home victory as the head coach of Colorado. What was your takeaway from Colorado just putting it on Nebraska, who I guess Jeff Sims just doesn't know how to handle a snap?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Colorado looks good. They continue to look good. I don't think that they're gonna, win more than 9 games, but I think 9 is might be a fair number. I mean, they're
I
gonna
just
start
need
out this
7.
season
I
3-0.
just need 7. Um,
Just needs 7. Yeah, but I
um,
think I think they're gonna start out 3-0. I think they're gonna absolutely just mollywop, Colorado State, especially after what, Norvell said. I think that's his name. I don't even know his
yes,
name. What a
yes, yeah,
what a
yes,
joke. I
yeah,
mean, what a joke of a guy. He's over here talking about, "I'm gonna take off my glasses and my hat when I talk to grown-ups." That's a bunch of malarkey.
yeah.
You
Then
know why?
Dion
You
buys
know why?
everybody sunglasses.
You know why? Because Deion Sanders is the greatest NFL defensive player of all time, and he can do whatever the hell he wants,
Take
and
that,
you don't get
Lawrence
to talk
Taylor.
about him like that.
um, yeah, I mean, Andy's a professional baseball player. I mean, come on. I mean, he's like Bo Jackson 2.0 over here. Um, I mean,
Yeah,
I
literally in the conversation for greatest athlete of all time, and you're gonna go over there and trash talk him?
Ooh, bad mistake. Um, my boy Dan Lanning kind of got in trouble, as well, but he wasn't
Yes,
talking
you
about
did.
he wasn't talking about this current team. So the question he was asked was, how do you feel about Colorado moving to the back to the Big 12? Um, and uh, he was addressing the accomplishments made before Dion got there and said, well, they haven't really won anything. They're not really a team that I would be concerned about in the past. But his name, but his words were taken out of context, and Dion will have more bulletin board material for next week. So kind of not waiting on that to
Yeah,
manifest. But
it's personal.
I think we'll be fine. I think we're going to be fine. I think we'll end up winning that game. I think Colorado will have their first L as they travel up to Eugene in a very hostile environment against Bo Nix and my boys. They were going to get tuned up here against Hawaii this week. But my takeaway from this was exactly yours. I think that Nebraska's in trouble. They don't have a quarterback I feel like is worthy of being a Nebraska Cornhusker. I think he probably should have stayed down at Georgia Tech where they are just terrible because I think that he's just terrible. Um, I mean, sorry Jeff Sims, like I know that you're a better quarterback than I could ever be as a D1 athlete, but as far as your peers are concerned, you are bad. And I think that that's
Should have been
very
Spencer
evident.
Sanders.
Yeah, it should have been Spencer Sanders. Yeah, I agree. I think Spencer would have easily started in Lincoln, but I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think he wanted to live in the cornfield. I think he was like, if I'm going to go somewhere, I'm going to Mississippi. I'm going to the Grove, where I can wear boat
Yeah,
shoes and khakis and get myself a nice looking, sorority girl. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that game was definitely one that people talked about. Here was one that shocked me. It took overtime, but North Carolina beats Appalachian State at home 40-34. I mean, Jesus Christ, needing overtime and Drake May got outperformed by Appalachian State's quarterback passing the ball. I mean, not a good look for North Carolina, Zach.
App Stage just got that magic about him. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, yeah, I mean it was 10-10 at halftime. At the end of three, it was 20-17 North Carolina, and then Appalachian State outscores UNC 10-7 to force OT, and then North Carolina, they get a fourth down stop in overtime that seals the victory for the Tar Heels, and I mean, thank your lucky stars, Mac Brown, because I mean, I think that's, just I mean, that's when bad teams that are supposed to be worse than you end up making mistakes is when the pressure is on and a huge fourth down they decided to go for the whole entire enchilada because they needed to because they were down by 6 and you had to have a touchdown to tie it and North Carolina went for 2 and didn't get it. So I mean I think that that's kind of a scenario where if you're just not that team, you're going to probably fold. And the Mountaineers, unfortunately, couldn't get the job done. But that kind of wraps up last week. So let's go ahead and hop into games happening tomorrow. Come talk to me. Come in closer, folks. We're here. We're getting ready to talk about it. Um, let's
Coming
go
in
ahead.
close.
Yeah, coming close. Rally around. Memphis already beat Navy 28-24 in a turnover fest. I mean, the ball literally looked like it was covered in oil. Miami gets the win over Bethune-Cookman 48-7, as they should. They are 3-0, like you said. But tomorrow it starts off early with Florida State and Boston College. I think this game is Florida State's to lose. Boston College is just absolutely god awful. I mean, I don't even want to look at the spread at this game because I feel like it's like 900. It's 24.5, which is an insult
What?
to Florida State. 24.5. I know they're traveling on the road up to Chestnut Hill, but please give the Seminoles more credit than 24.5. I mean, that might be my lock of the week. That's just insulting. I
Yeah,
mean
that's. I'm
that
actually gonna go ahead and put that down as lock of the week if
Okay,
you don't
you're
mind.
okay. You take it. You take that. That is embarrassing. As
Yeah,
Florida State's only favored by 24.5 on the road up in BC. I think me and you are both thinking Florida State's just going to hammer the Eagles. Now listen to this line. This line's interesting to me. Penn State, Illinois. What would be your guess that this line is? Give me your guess.
35 and a half.
14. They got Penn State minus 14 on the road up in Champaign, Illinois, where weird things happen at 11 o'clock in the
Gonna have to
in
go ahead
the.
and gonna have to go ahead and be my second
He
lock of
said
the week.
he said 2 games, 2 locks. I am done. None of us have lost a lock this year. Well, actually, you did. You lost your Utah lock last week. Sorry, I lied.
Yeah,
But I mean, as far as locks go, fantastic for us this year. And I think those are two solid locks, Zach. I'll give you those two locks. As Penn
yeah,
State's only
seriously, Jesus.
favored by 14 on the road against you. I don't know what the hell
They're
is
gonna
going
win
on.
like 49-0.
Yeah, and the over under is only 48. I mean, that is absolutely insane to me. I mean, my prediction. One of my friends does a Penn State exclusive podcast, and I gave him my prediction for my score was 35-10, and I thought that was being extremely conservative. But apparently they think this is gonna be like 28 to 14 or something. I mean, that's just crazy. That's just crazy.
Terrible,
Um, I don't know who.
terrible.
I mean, Vegas is on drugs. Um, Mississippi State and LSU also a noon Eastern 11 Central kickoff. LSU only favored by 9.5 on the road against the Bulldogs. That line kind of makes more sense because with those cowbells going, I mean, it can get kind of rowdy. But I don't know if Will Rogers and company is really 9.5 seems a little. I just again, I mean, LSU just got done thumping Grambling by like 60 plus points. I think LSU probably takes care of business here by more than 9.5. Am I wrong? If I'm wrong here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think LSU's got a serious team this year, even though they lost week one. Who cares if they lost it in week one against Florida State? They got a serious team, and they're gonna win this game by more than 9.
Yeah, I think you gotta win it by more than 9. If you're gonna be taken seriously, this game in Columbia, Missouri, this is one we'll talk about for sure ad nauseum. If what we think is gonna happen is gonna happen, Kansas State playing Missouri. The spread on this is Kansas State minus 3.5. I mean, this might be my lock of the week. I mean, Kansas State minus 3.5 on the road. You got to be kidding me. After Missouri barely escaped Middle Tennessee State by 4 at home, shut up. Just shut up. I mean,
Yeah,
I cannot wait to at all these Missouri, drum pounders out here thinking that this team is going to win their side of the SEC for some ungodly reason. This is where the delusion ends. You're gonna get thumped. Will Howard's gonna throw for 9,000 yards. You're gonna be sitting there going, "How did this happen?" And I'm gonna be sitting there going, "It's 49-0. What's going on?" The spread on here is 49. I think Kansas State probably wins this by 2 touchdowns at least, and that's being
at
conservative
least.
here. I think this line is a joke, and I think Kansas State probably rolls in Columbia.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Mizzou is a joke, and I think their program is poverty, and I think they have a poverty program, and I think that they do poverty program activities, and so do their fans.
Now this next game, I'm skipping a couple because there's some nobody games here. I know there's other ones going on, but it just doesn't matter. But this one is going to be close whether you like it or not. Ohio is hosting Iowa State. Iowa State only a 2.5 point favorite. I kind of like the Bobcats here, Zach. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like the way
I
Ohio's
like them
looking.
too.
Um,
I like them too. I think Iowa State's terrible.
yeah, I think they're pretty bad, and I think the Cyclones might be in for a surprise. I think the Bobcats probably win that one at home. Um, Another game that's going on. Let's see. I mean, this is not the greatest slate in the world here. Um, let's talk about this one because we've had some surprises in the past. Georgia hosting South Carolina. UGA is a 27-point favorite against the Gamecocks. Can Spencer Rattler do it and end the Bulldogs' reign as the number one team in the country this week, Zach?
Yes,
Oh,
yes, he can.
oh,
Give me South Carolina on the plus 27.5 as one of my picks this week. I think that Spencer Rattler is going to throw for 400 yards on this Georgia defense, and I think that South Carolina comes away not only by covering their end of the spread, but I think they're going to win this football
ooh,
game.
I like it. I like it. I like the pick. Look, I think South Carolina covers this game. I'll give you that. Do they win? I just don't know. Um, I would like to see them win, but I'm gonna be kind of less of a Spencer Rattler dick sucker, and I'm gonna say they probably lose this game, but I think it's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be if they lose this game, Zach, it's not gonna be by more than 2 touchdowns. They're gonna lose by 10 or less. I think that they have the ability to keep this close, but boy howdy, what's the over under on sacks he takes? I mean, if you're taking 9 sacks against UNC, I mean, are we talking a
11.
double digit sacks here for the Georgia defense? I mean, you
It's
gotta
very
bootleg the
possible.
man. You gotta bootleg the man.
It's very, very possible that they end up getting like 11 sacks this game, because that O line. I'm not gonna lie, that O line at South Carolina can't block for shit. But Spencer Rattler is a talented veteran quarterback in college football, and he's going to have the ability to get that ball out quickly. And I think that he can orchestrate a win.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ability is there, right? Like, I'm not negating the fact that Spencer Rattler could orchestrate this offense to score more points than Georgia tomorrow. I think it could happen. And the thing is we haven't really seen anything from Georgia. They haven't played anybody. This is going to be kind of their first test of the season this year. And boy, this is not really an easy one. I mean, especially with what we've seen him do under duress. I mean, 9 sacks and you still throw for 390. I mean, that's impressive. I don't care if you get shut out. I think that that's super impressive. He didn't throw for any touchdowns that game, but hard to throw for any touchdowns when you're getting sacked every third play. It seemed like.
Exactly.
Um,
And he leads
so
the country in passing yards a game at 359 passing
I
yards
don't
per
think that
game.
ends. I don't think that ends, and I think that people will start to see that this Georgia defense's secondary is probably not as good as advertised. Another game that's going on in the afternoon, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. Minnesota is traveling to Chapel Hill to take on North Carolina. North Carolina only a 7-point favorite against the Gophers, and rightfully so after Appalachian State took them to overtime. I don't have a problem with this spread, Zach, but I think that North Carolina probably wins this by 10 plus.
I would agree with that. In fact, I'll go ahead and put that down as one of my picks this week too.
Okay, okay, you man, man, you're
And my
rolling.
other one's gonna be OU. So,
Oh, okay, okay. So you only got one left. You're over here making this thing easy for me. Um,
oh yeah, I'm just saying, put them in now. Get them in.
um, I'm looking here down the line here. Not a lot uh, of like I said, this is not the greatest week for college football. Let's go ahead and hit up Washington having to travel out to East Lansing. Better get used to it. Um, as they take on Michigan State. Both of these teams are 2-0. Washington a 16.5 point favorite against the Spartans. Um, boy, I don't think this is going to be an easy one for the Huskies. I think this is going to be one of those games where this 56-point over under, I don't know if it's going to get hit. I think this is going to be a defensive battle, Zach. What are your thoughts on this game tomorrow at 5 Eastern, 4 Central?
I think that this is where we really get to see a test. We really get to see Washington get tested. We get to see Michael Penix Jr. get tested in a hostile environment, and it's not going to be easy. But if they can come out and win, what's the spread?
16 and a half.
16.5. If they can come out and win by 21 plus, I mean, we got a solid Pac-12 team that could contend for the playoff on our hands.
I mean, I don't
So
disagree. I don't disagree with that. I think if they can win by, I mean, I would think even if they cover here, I think it'd be pretty impressive. Um, I mean, I
exactly,
obviously know Mel Tucker on the sideline, Zach. I mean that
it's
situation
tough.
not great. You know,
Exactly, it's going to rattle that team.
I mean, that's. But we've also seen sometimes interim head coaches come in and the team just kind of flips. And I mean, that could be a good thing for Michigan State having a new face up there. We'll kind of have to see how that goes. But this could go very much either way. I just wouldn't really touch this game, to be honest. I just don't
Don't
know.
touch it.
I don't think if I was a betting man, I would touch this game at all. Um, Let's scroll down here. Another game everyone's going to be locked in on 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Tennessee traveling to the Swamp to take on Florida. Tennessee only a 5.5 point favorite, Zach, against a really bad Florida team. I mean, Graham Mertz is terrible, and I think that Tennessee is about to just beat the ever living shit out of Florida at their own house. What are your thoughts on this game? A lot of people think this is going to be a close game. A lot of people have stated historically that Florida owns Tennessee at their place. I just don't think this is the year.
I think that I don't have any more picks.
You've got one
After
left.
the
You've
after
got
this.
one
I
left.
know, I know, and I think that I'm using it on this Tennessee-Florida game because Jesus Christ, Tennessee is going to absolutely slaughter Florida in the swamp. I mean, are you kidding me? Florida's not that good. Everyone, we've seen it with our 2 eyes. We all know Florida's not good. We know that Tennessee is good. So I don't know what else to tell you. I think what happens in the SEC this week is that we're going to see Tennessee all of a sudden come out as, wait, Tennessee might win the SEC. That might be what we're thinking at the end of this week coming up, especially seeing what happens at the end of this Georgia South Carolina game. But yeah, go ahead and hammer that down for me. I know that Tennessee is going to be beating Florida by at least I would say 14.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, I would say at least. I think you're right. I think at least two touchdowns here for the
Terrible
Volunteers.
line.
Yeah, I think it's a joke. Um, Now as we get down here of some more terrible games that you can't even bet on because they're just mismatches beyond comprehension. The next one you actually get pulled up here is Ole Miss playing Georgia Tech at home. Ole Miss 17.5 point favorite over the Yellow Jackets. Um, I mean, I like Ole Miss here at home, taking care of the Yellow Jackets after a close game against Tulane. I say close; they won by 17, but that was close to the end.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm with you. I like Mississippi here.
I think they cover this 17 and a half. I mean, it seems big, but I just don't think Georgia Tech's very good.
Georgia Tech's terrible.
Yeah,
We know this.
they got to cover. Um, Another game between two unranked teams, but one that I'm definitely going to be taking part in watching is Arkansas hosting BYU. 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. Um, Arkansas only an 8 point favorite over BYU that has I don't know how to tell you this, but they've struggled this season. They're 2-0, but
Struggle.
they have not been impressive in either of their wins, and both of their wins have been against what I would classify as inferior opponents. Um, and
They need to pray a little
I
more.
did see the video of them trying to identify which state is Arkansas on a map, and half of that team doesn't know where Arkansas is. Like half of them pointed to Missouri. Um, that's troublesome. We had one guy point to Montana. I think that's very troublesome for BYU. But we know that Mormons aren't really the most logically educated people, so I'm not really surprised. Um,
Yeah,
Now they did take care of Southern Utah 41-16 last week, but only beating Sam Houston State 14-0 does not make me think that you can hang within 8 points of the Arkansas Razorbacks. I think I'm going to pick this as one of my picks this week as Arkansas minus the 8 against BYU at home in Fayetteville. I think this is a easily double digit win for the Hogs. Woo pig fucking suey. Um,
blue pig suit.
Another game that a lot of people will be watching that's not between ranked teams is West Virginia and Pittsburgh in Morgantown. West Virginia favored by 2.5 over the Panthers. This game's always good, Zach. I really don't care
Oh yeah,
if either of these teams are ranked ever when they play. It just seems like every time they play, the game comes down to like the fourth quarter, and I don't think that this is any different. I think these teams are very evenly matched. I like West Virginia a lot better than I like Pitt in this game. But I could definitely see West Virginia only winning this game by a field goal. I like the spread in this game. I think these teams are very much evenly matched. But I think Garrett Green's gonna have a big game. Pittsburgh might be in trouble if they let him run the ball as well. What are your thoughts on this
exactly.
game?
It's in Morgantown, right?
Yes.
I think it's going to be tough for Pitt to be down there in Morgantown. That's a tough environment to be in. And I think West Virginia is, a little bit better. They're not terrible. They're a little bit better than some people were letting on earlier in the season or earlier in the off season. So I think Pitt's gonna have a hard time. I think that you're right that Garrett Green's gonna go out there, he's gonna run his ass off, and that Pitt is gonna I don't think we're gonna have as good of a game this year. I think West Virginia, honestly, is probably gonna win this thing, by the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, I mean that's that. I mean, I'm too afraid to choose that as one of my picks, but I'm very tempted to. I just don't know. I just don't know if I
Just
can.
do it.
I
Just
just I
do it.
just I
Just
just
do it.
I've got other games that I
No,
like.
you're here.
I have other
No,
games
you're
I
here.
like. I
You're
have other
here.
games I like. So the next game I want to talk about is Texas and Wyoming down in Austin. Texas is now the
Uh-oh.
spread has ballooned. The spread has ballooned to 30 for the Longhorns, and I'm going to tell you, courage of my convictions, give me Wyoming plus the 30. I think that Austin Peasley and this Wyoming team, they like to slow down the game. They are going to limit the amount of possessions that Texas has. I think that they cover the 30. I don't think that Texas comes out here and just blows the doors off of these Cowboys. And to be honest, don't be surprised if in the fourth quarter you look up and Texas is only up by a touchdown or only up by 10, and here comes Austin Peasley in this offense to try to cut into that lead. I think that Wyoming is a lot better than people thought going into this season. I knew they were going to beat Texas Tech, but
Oh,
barely
yeah.
beating Portland State. I mean, I say barely, 31-7, but I mean, like it wasn't dominant in my eyes, as far as compared to the way Oregon handled them, which I don't know if any team will handle Portland State the same after that. But I think that Wyoming is definitely equipped enough to cover that 30 points. Zach, what are your thoughts on the Longhorns hosting the Cowboys tomorrow at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on the Longhorn Network?
Um, 1, fuck the Longhorn Network. 2, I just I like Wyoming to cover the 30, but I just wouldn't put money on it. Just because I think that as much as I hate to say it, Texas might be back.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean,
They might be back. And now that I'm done saying that, let's put this back on.
yeah,
Let's do one of these.
can't say it with the hat on. That'd be sacrilegious. Um,
Let's do one of these. It's just hard for me to fathom um, Texas not winning this game um, by at least 21. They should. If they don't, hey, I'm happy. But I'm really hoping that Texas can continue to look amazing so that when OU beats them in October, we get a nice little top 5 rank. So that's what I'm hoping for.
yeah, I mean, this is one of those games. I don't know if this is necessarily a trap game, um, but it's. I like Wyoming to cover. I think they do. I mean, I think Texas wins this game, but I don't think it's going to be easy for the Longhorns to just coast through this. They're going to need help. They're going to need turnovers. That's going to be the biggest key here. If Wyoming plays clean football, they will have a chance. That's all I'm going to say. If they play clean football, they're going to have a chance. I know that sounds crazy, but I really think Austin Peasley. I know he's not Josh Allen, but the guy is a Wyoming quarterback through and through. The guy's a cowboy. He's not afraid to stand in there and just get absolutely hammered. I mean, I think the guy had a concussion at the end of the Texas Tech game, but I don't think it mattered. I think he was going to stay in that game
Oh
regardless.
man,
Um,
the dog.
yeah, he's got that dog in him. Um, so I think that's definitely something that I can get behind. Um, so I mean, I'm taking Wyoming as one of my picks. We'll put the money amounts to these games later on after this. We're just gonna give our picks, and I'll get with Zach on Twitter, and we'll get the dollar amounts all sorted out for the games, and we'll get that image uploaded for you guys before kickoff at noon Eastern, 11 Central, so you guys can tail if you would like to. No, not a lot of, like I said, not a lot of games left to really talk about tomorrow. Houston and TCU, another game. That one's on Fox. I'll looks like I'll be covering that game live here on St0ner Sports Radio here on twitch.tv/ST0NERGAMER. TCU only favored by 7.5 against a team that just lost to Rice. Your
Yeah,
thoughts on
tough,
that? Um,
tough. TCU,
yeah,
Natty. I mean, come on now. I mean, they're a team that doesn't look like a team that should have gone to the national championship last year. I mean, obviously they deserved it after beating Michigan, but I mean, Jesus, Jesus,
I
against a
mean,
team that,
different players
oh
too, though.
Christ, different players, but it just as a program and the continuity of a program, it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and I think TCU probably covers the 7.5 here. To lose to a team that just lost to Rice, even if you're traveling, and I say traveling because you're going from Fort Worth to Houston, not really traveling. Um,
It is in Texas, man. That's like a 5 hour drive.
yeah, yeah. Ooh, ooh. But I mean, you know that there's going to be an ample amount of TCU fans in that crowd. There's going to be an ample amount of
Oh yeah,
purple speckled throughout the bright red in that stadium for sure. I like TCU to cover. I think Houston's bad. I just don't think they're good.
Houston is bad.
I think their win over UTSA was a little bit lucky. UTSA turned the ball over like 9 billion times that game. They did not deserve to win that game. And I think that Houston's offense, bless Dana Holgerson's heart, his Red Bull infested heart, I don't think he's going to be able to survive on even at home against these Horned Frogs. So I'm taking uh, TCU as one of my picks here. Next game, talk about Colorado State. Colorado favored by 23.5 at home against the Rams. Your thoughts on
Easy.
this? I think this is
They
probably an
should win
easy
by
cover.
30.
Yeah, I think this is an
They should
easy
win by
cover. I
30.
think this is an easy
Yeah.
cover. Barring injury, devastating injury, I think that this would be an easy cover for the Buffaloes, and that's going to be another one of my picks this week is Colorado minus the 23.5. Going down the line here, that really looks kind of like it. Um, Arizona State and Fresno State is kind of your close nightcap game. Fresno State favored over the Sun Devils by 3 points. Um, this is in Tempe. Your thoughts on the Bulldogs versus the Sun Devils here?
Yeah, that's a tough one because Arizona State looks kind of terrible. And they've been looking terrible the entire year, especially against, Oklahoma State. Um, I probably have the Sun Devils.
Yeah, look, the two wins Fresno State has is a 4 point win over Purdue and a 3 point win over
Yeah,
Eastern Washington. I think that Fresno State's probably getting a little bit more credit than they deserve going into this.
yeah.
Give me the Sun Devils to win this one outright. Now, time to talk about teams we actually care about. So let's go ahead and hit up the first team on the list, my Oregon Ducks, favored by 38 over the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. That game at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on the Pac-12 network. Look, I'm not picking my Ducks to cover this. I don't know why. After Texas Tech, I just don't know. 38's big for me. Should they win this one 42-0? Yes, they should. But I just don't know if that's going to happen. Now, the Hawaii quarterback's already thrown for almost 1,000 yards through 3 games. I mean, that's pretty impressive. He's thrown 10 touchdowns, 5 picks, which is not great. I expect him to throw a couple more here to us on Saturday. That'll help us out a lot to try to get that. I think we win probably 35. I think 35 would probably be a better line. I'd be willing to smash. 38 seems like a bit much. Am I picking Hawaii to cover? No. I don't trust the Rainbow Warriors to save my life. But what are your thoughts on this game up in Eugene?
I would be comfortable taking Oregon by 38. Like I said, I think that it was tough going into Lubbock and winning, and I think that the fact that they did proves that this is a good team. I just don't, obviously there are still some questions, especially on the defensive side of the ball, kind of coming out of that game against Texas Tech. But once again, you were in Lubbock. That's a tough environment to be in. So I think that Oregon should go ahead and get this. Dub pretty easily against Hawaii by at least 38 points.
I mean, yeah, Hawaii lost to Vanderbilt, so maybe I should feel a little bit better about
You
the
should be
spread.
nervous.
I mean, and they lost to Stanford by double digits. I just their only win is against Albany, and I think that's. I 38 is just a
You should be
lot.
nervous.
I think 35 is a good would be a better line. I think if that line drops to 35, take it. I don't think it will. I think it'll actually probably balloon more. But I think 38 is a bit much. I mean, they're thinking we're going to win this thing, you know, 56 to 13. You know, they're thinking this is going to be just just an absolute cakewalk, which it should. Um, but Hawaii, they're not traveling very far. They're going to be, I mean, this is going to be the shortest distance that they've traveled thus far on the road. Um, I mean, maybe Palo Alto is a little closer, but it's not going to be Albany. It's not going to be all the way in Memphis to play Vanderbilt. It's going to be a lot different for the Rainbow Warriors. So I expect them to be well rested. Expect them to have their legs under them, and it's going to be probably a rough first half. I think we're not going to be up by
Yeah.
more than a lot. I think we're going to probably use that third and fourth quarter to our advantages and spread it out. But I think that first half you'll be looking like, oh my, Oregon's only up by 17 at halftime. Rough. I think that's something you could definitely see tomorrow night. OU and Tulsa, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. OU a 28.5 point favorite over the Golden Hurricanes. You said this is definitely your last pick out of your six. Is it a lock? No, because it's not. It's not the first two games I gave you, which should be locks. Which
Yeah.
yeah, which was your your very much beloved Kansas State minus 3.5. And your no, you took Penn State minus the 14 against Illinois and LSU minus the 9.5 against Mississippi State, correct? Or
No, Tennessee was the other lock.
oh, Tennessee was the other lock. Okay, okay, okay. I'll have to go back and verify, but I believe you are correct. What are your thoughts on OU here? You think they cover the 28.5 easily here? They're on the road. I say on the road again, but 2.5 hours away, 3 hours away. I mean, not ooh scary, but I mean
There'll be a lot more OU fans in the crowd.
yeah, I mean tickets are as low as $83, baby, and that's not as cheap as those Arkansas State tickets. I'll tell you that much. So there's definitely going to
True.
be some local interest in this. Go ahead and break it down for me, brother.
I think OU should win this game by at least 28 points. I'll be pretty upset if we don't. Um, I think I want to see some offensive questions get answered against Tulsa here. I think this team is, not as good as SMU, obviously, but way better than Arkansas State. So we should be able to see like of um, a little bit of a test. I would like to see Dylan Gabriel kind of throw a little bit more efficiently and for more yardage. He's only throwing for like under 200 yards every time he's been in so far. And his efficiency last game was not fantastic. So I'd like to see that improve a little bit. So I'll see what he can do against Tulsa. If OU can put up at least 50 points, I'll be happy. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it. But I do think they should cover by 28. I think we're looking at probably like 35, maybe 42 to 7.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. They're probably going to give up some points. I think that they don't shut them out.
Yeah,
I think you're giving up at least a field goal, if anything. I mean, I could see 42-10, with all those
true.
points from Tulsa coming in the fourth quarter when the second stringers are in. Um, but I think probably being 35 zip at the end of the third would probably be ideal. Get Jackson Arnold in there for the fourth and let
I'd
him
be very happy with that.
yeah, let him get a touchdown or two in there. But I think OU probably takes care of business up in Tulsa at Chapman Stadium. The last game we're going to talk about, Oklahoma State and South Alabama. This game in Boone Pickens Stadium, and Oklahoma State only favored by 7 against the South Alabama Jags. I'm gonna be honest. I'm picking Oklahoma State as a winner here. I think they're gonna cover. Um, South Alabama is not a slouch. I understand that, but look at their schedule and who they've beat, and it's not really impressive. You lost to Tulane by
True.
20, and you beat Southeast Louisiana by double digits. You don't really have anything to hang your hat on if you're South Alabama. They're very talented for a Sun Belt team, and they're going to be again the toughest opponent that Oklahoma State's probably played was last week. I think Arizona State would probably beat South Alabama. It would be a close game, but I don't think that South Alabama would beat Arizona State. So by that logic, I think you have to take Oklahoma State to cover this 7 at home. I just don't see how.
I think
I,
so.
I just if this game is even that close at all, if they only win by 7, Season's a disaster. This is a 5-win football team.
Yeah.
If they only beat this team by 7, there's so much going on. I don't know who's going to start still at quarterback for the Cowboys. It just seems like a revolving door of, oh, we let Rangel start the first game, we let Bowman start the second game. Are we going to let Gundy start this game? Like, I mean, they might as well. I mean, I just don't see where Mike Gundy's head is at right here as far as the quarterback situation is concerned. It's very troubling. Like, we made fun of Missouri's quarterback situation coming into this because we thought for sure Alan Bowman would be starting for the Cowboys, no doubt. And they're more of an embarrassment at the quarterback spot than Missouri, and I can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah, that's a wild take. But I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with it. I think that Mike Gundy has a terrible situation going on because little brother over there in Stillwater, they just have a terrible situation. They have a poverty program. That's what poverty programs do. Um, and I think that Mike Gundy is probably on the hot seat after this season.
I mean, you say that, but I mean, it's just like if he can get 7 or 8 wins this year, they're gonna keep him. I mean, who is Oklahoma State gonna hire that's better than Mike Gundy? The guy has literally had like no losing season since he's taken the job. Like, I mean, he's been the guy. I mean, he's gotten them, on the cusp of the college football playoff in the national championship game twice. I mean,
So
ma-
mid,
3 times. I mean, at least OU's
mid.
made it 3 times. But I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's devastating to have a situation where you don't know who your quarterback is 3 games into the season. At least Missouri knows who their fucking quarterback is. I mean, like, Jesus Christ. I mean, yeah, it might have been 3 names coming into the season, but Missouri stuck with one guy. They've stuck with that one guy, and that one guy's going to lose this weekend to Kansas State. But I mean, you had I thought Alan Bowman was going to be the answer. I really did. I was like, look, the guy was super good at Texas Tech until he got hurt. Was super good the next year at Texas Tech and then got hurt. If he can stay healthy, we know how talented Alan Bowman is. We know how good he
Yeah.
can be. But God forbid he gets in there against Central Arkansas and looks like Garbo trash. I'm like the Central Arkansas quarterbacks look better than Alan Bowman. Like, that's not supposed to happen. That's not supposed to happen. Now, granted, people have said, look, Gundy and Rangel. Rangel started that game, and it went pretty well for him against Central Arkansas. But Gundy, all of his drives have started on the opponent's side of the 50-yard line. All of Alan Bowman's drives have started at Oklahoma State's 25-yard line after a half or after a score from the other team. So he's had 75 yards to orchestrate. Gundy's had short field. Rangel, I don't even think he played in Tempe at all. I don't even know. I don't even know. I kind of watched that game. I stayed up and watched it because I was like, this game is super close. It shouldn't be. It was like 17 to 17 at halftime or something. Like, it was crazy. It was like, who's gonna be the guy that's going to step up and create separation against an Arizona State team that doesn't even deserve to be on the field with you guys. I'm pulling it up right now because I feel like I'm an idiot talking. But it was 15 to 10 Arizona State at halftime. Oklahoma State shuts out the Sun Devils in the second half, outscores them 17 to nothing. But if you take a look at the box score here for Oklahoma State, Rangel, 6 of 9, 46 yards and a touchdown. Alan Bowman, 11 of 16, 113 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Gunnar Gundy, 5 of 7, 32 yards and a touchdown. So again, Rangel and Gundy, both of their possessions that they had, which was like 4 combined between them, all started on the Arizona State side of the 50. All of Bowman's drives started at the 25. So I don't know what you can take from that. I mean, rushing the ball has not been fantastic. We thought the offensive line was going to have some sort of improvement, but your leading rusher had 53 yards on 9 carries, which is great averaging. I mean, you're averaging 5.9 a carry. Jaden Nixon has 7 carries for 43 yards. That's 6.1 a carry. But I mean, and both of them popped off 30-plus yard runs. But it's like, is I just haven't seen anything, Zach. Like, do we even know
Yeah.
anything about Oklahoma State? We know nothing. They've beaten teams
We
that
know
are
that they're
worse than
terrible.
them, and they've done it going away in the second half like they should. It's one of those things, like, it seemed like OU last week. It was like, why is this 14-11 in the fourth quarter? How did this happen? And then, sure enough, Jeff Lebby's like, all right, now I'm going to throw the football. And what happened? Boom, touchdown. Boom, touchdown. I mean, it was like, where was this the whole entire game? I mean, OU should have won that game by 30, and they ended up squeaking it out because Jeff Lebby wanted to play conservative football for 3.5 quarters. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, this is how I feel about Mike Gundy in this offense. I feel like they haven't shown anything, and they've just been like, we're testing stuff out. We're testing stuff out. We're testing stuff out. Once we play a Big 12 opponent, then we'll pull out all the stops. That's how I feel about Oklahoma State right now. I feel like we're still not going to see anything new. I feel like the 7 point spread is because, they're going to be rotating all three of their quarterbacks. I mean, fuck, we might not even see anything against Iowa State. I mean, Iowa State's so bad. I mean, we might not know anything until the Kansas State game on October 6th. We're probably not going to know anything until October 6th with this Oklahoma State team because they're not going
Oh,
to
you
play
might
anybody
know
till
something
then.
Iowa State. You might know something at Iowa State, especially when Oklahoma State loses that game.
Ooh, I mean, it is in Ames. They don't like going up there. Um, I don't know what time that game's going to be at, but it probably is going to be a daytime game because they play at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central against Kansas State at home, which Kansas State's probably going to rock the socks out of Oklahoma State at their own house. I mean, fuck, they lost to Kansas last year by like 30 at home. I don't think they have much of a home field advantage. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to talk about little brother so long, but I mean, I think that it's just a problem. It's just something that
No
shouldn't
problem.
happen at a team that literally was in the Big 12 championship game last year.
Terrible. It was a
It's
terrible
it
Big
is
12 last year.
not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Um, you wanted to talk about the NFL, so we'll transition out to the NFL. Let's talk about your Dallas Cowboys and how you feel like they are just Super Bowl bound already, which doesn't surprise me at all. You Cowboy fans are all the same. It's all Super Bowl after Week 1, no problem. No issues. It's and let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. This week could change some things for you. This week could be troublesome.
No.
I'm not feeling like you guys are gonna be up to the task. I think I think that this week
Cowboys by 30
yeah,
touchdowns.
I don't think the Jets have a chance. I think the Jets had a
I don't
chance when
either.
Aaron Rodgers was back there. I don't think Zach Wilson's the answer. I think you probably take care of business this week. The Cardinals don't pose a threat. My Patriots don't pose a threat. We won't know anything about the Cowboys until October 8th when they play the 49ers, if the 49ers are healthy. Just give us kind of your breakdown of kind of how the season's gone so far. Um, I know that you guys um, are right behind Philadelphia in the standings due to the fact they've already played this week. So they're 2-0, you're 1-0, so that's why they're ahead of you. But the only team that lost in your division was the Giants, and that's because you beat them. Go ahead and just kind
40
of
to 0.
give me your thoughts on the NFL as a whole so far. Right, we're only 1 week in. We got more stuff happening this Sunday with games. But what's your takeaway from 1 week other than Aaron Rodgers just snapping his Achilles and just having it explode after 75 seconds of him being on the field?
Yeah, that's terrible. I mean, that
Bad,
sucks.
bad.
Um, yeah, bad. Just real bad. I'll say on the NFC side of things, though, it's basically two teams right now. You got the Cowboys and the 49ers. I think the Cowboys are the best team in the league by far. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year
Whew.
easily. Um, Now the 49ers I think are a team that's pretty threatening in the NFC. And on the AFC side of things, I think it's wide open. I mean wide
Yeah,
open.
yeah.
I think you're looking at even possibly Jacksonville being a possibility of out of the AFC. They look good.
Indianapolis
There's
don't look bad.
yeah,
I mean, I know they
it's
lost,
it's a lot.
but I mean, they look talented enough to compete with Jacksonville. Um, but
That's
Jacksonville
true.
looks like the real deal, so I can agree with that. Anything else on the AFC side pop out to you? Because I see a couple things
And
here that you can
obviously the
add.
Dolphins.
Yeah, the Dolphins looked good, right? My boy, Justin Herbert, brother. You've got to get out of LA. You got to go somewhere else. I mean, I God, I love him so much, but it's just like,
Kellen Moore.
yeah, fuck you, Kellen Moore. Fuck you. Look, I think that the Chargers right now, um, in the AFC West out there, tough loss to the Dolphins in Week 1, but I think that yeah, Tyreek Hill is one of the best receivers in the league. I can't debate with the fact that there's nobody on my defense that could keep up with him. I say my, but I mean I'm not really a Chargers fan, but I'm a Justin Herbert fan, so I would like to see his team do well. Um, especially since my Patriots 100% are not going to do anything this season. I'm sorry for all you Patriots fans out there that hope that I'm just, sucking Bill Belichick's long schlong. But his wrinkly old penis. But I'm just not this year. I just know this is going to be a bad
Double
year.
balls.
We're going to be under 500. It's not going to be pretty. I mean, this is a Buffalo Bills Miami Dolphins division in the AFC East because now that Aaron Rodgers is hurt, you got nobody. Um, please, Tom Brady, come back and play for the Jets. I don't even care that you're not a Patriot anymore. Just come back and play for the Jets. I don't want to see them sign Jameis Winston. I don't want to see them sign, you know, Philip Rivers. For the love of Christ, stay home with your 95 kids. I mean, it's just I don't know. What do the Jets do here, Zach? I mean, do you roll with Zach Wilson? Because God forbid you call Joe Flacco back up and say, "Hey, buddy, want to come back and play for the Jets?" I mean, who is the guy you would like to see for the Jets come back and try to take the Jets, who are 1-0 after surviving in overtime, to try to get them to continue their success that they were promising their fans this year?
I'd say you continue with the guy that Aaron Rodgers has been training for the entirety of the offseason, and that's Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson got this team to a victory against the
He
Bills with
didn't do
Aaron Rodgers
shit.
only
He didn't do
Aaron Rodgers
shit.
played 4 snaps. He didn't lose the game is what he didn't
But
do. He
Zach
did
Wilson
not
didn't win the
lose the
game. The
game.
punt return won the
He didn't
game.
need to win the game. He didn't need to win the game. He needed to keep them in the game, and that's
The
exactly what
Jets
he did.
defense won that game.
And that's exactly what it and so what? The Patriots defense won those first 2 Super Bowls. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
It's all about
guess.
making sure that you don't lose the game. It's
Yeah.
about making sure that you
Yeah.
can keep your team in the game, and I
But
think
but
that Zach Wilson has the
but
capability to do that this year.
but
I
their
think they're
defense
going to
ain't
the
stopping your
playoffs.
Cowboys this week. That defense ain't
No, they're
stopping
not
your
gonna stop the
Cowboys this
Cowboys.
week.
They're not gonna stop the Cowboys, but that doesn't mean Cowboys are gonna win the Super Bowl, so that's okay. The Jets are a playoff team. I'm here for it.
Legend
They are a
Legend says
7
le,
seed
le, le,
AFC team.
Legend says they're gonna sign Blake Bortles, but Blake Bortles already on Barstool Sports podcast said he's not gonna do it. So I mean he said no. Blake Bortles in person has said he's not gonna go back in the league for the New York
They're
Jets.
looking for their backup because they're gonna roll with Zach Wilson, I'm telling you.
I mean, so here's some other takeaways from the AFC side. Cleveland, they get the win over Cincinnati, very very impressively, because Cincinnati looked bad, Zach. I mean
They
they
look bad.
but again they lost their last game or their first game last year, and it looked terrible to start last year. What is up with Cincinnati just
Okay.
looking terrible in their first game? I have no idea what's up with that. I'm not really concerned.
They just gotta get it under them.
I'm not concerned about the Bengals. I think that'll kind of sort itself out. Baltimore looked shaky. Of course, J.K. Dobbins, he blows his Achilles too. I mean, just devastating. Um, but Justice Hill, a former Oklahoma State Cowboy, is gonna get a lot of reps. He's a decent running back. I don't hate him. I think that he's going to lead that rushing attack and be very effective. Um, you look at Jacksonville, the only team to win in the AFC South over the weekend. Tennessee, Texans, and Colts all lose. So Jacksonville at the top right now of the AFC South. AFC West, Jimmy Garoppolo, baby, getting it done against the Denver Broncos in Mile High, and looked okay. He looked like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think him and Devontae Adams are that offense. I think that you take a look at the Broncos, and Russell Wilson's bad, and that offense is bad.
Mhm.
And you take a look at the Chiefs, and you say, look, you may have lost in your first game, but they'll be fine. I think they'll find. I think it's going to probably be a race still between the Chiefs and the Chargers. I think that these other two teams will probably fall in line through the middle of the season, because I just don't think that talent-wise they match up very well with anybody else in their division. NFC wise, I thought Atlanta looked pretty good. Bijan Robinson looked okay. He didn't have like a ton of yards, but he looked good when he touched the football. Um, Baker Mayfield looks
Tyler
good.
Algier, how about that?
Yeah,
Tyler
Algier
Algier taking
looking
like the
good.
majority of the taking majority of the carries.
Yeah, he did, and I think that
Surprising.
was on purpose, though. I think you're trying to not have Bijan blow his Achilles out in week one. I think that injuries are literally what they're trying to avoid. They're like, we need Bijan for like the middle of the season, so we can give him 32 carries against
Yeah.
the Saints or something. I mean, and the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, baby, getting the job done. I
Yes,
like the way
sir.
that looks. A lot of people didn't think that Baker Mayfield was going to be the guy down in Tampa Bay to be able to do anything, but I think with him and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin down there, that offense is good. It's just the defense for Tampa Bay that's just not very good anymore. And it's mid. It's not terrible, but I don't think it's a defense that you can really rely on for 4 quarters if your offense isn't doing anything. And luckily for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they weren't playing a team that was like, super, macho. I mean, look, the Minnesota Vikings look bad. But they looked a lot better last night offensively late in that game. But again, credit the Eagles defense, the way they played on Thursday night. I think that was kind of that. I mean, you can't turn it over that many times and win a football game. So, I mean, I think that kind of spoke volumes. And if Justin Jefferson doesn't reach for that pylon and fumble it out of the end zone, I think that you're looking at a very tight game late against the Eagles with a chance for Kirk Cousins to work some magic and possibly give them the lead late. I think Jordan Addison looks fantastic.
Exactly.
Jordan Addison looks like a threat.
True.
I think that picking him up for my fantasy team was a smart move. I know that going into the season, I was getting clowned for taking Jordan Addison as early as I did, but I think that he's a great thing to pair with Justin Jefferson because if you put too much, you double cover JJ out there, Jordan Addison's going to beat you over the top just as bad. And he's got some hands on him. I really like the rookie, the way he played. Jordan Love. I mean, he looked pretty good, didn't he, Zach? I mean, he looked like
He looked good.
he looked like a young Aaron Rodgers to me, right? Like after Brett Favre left, Aaron Rodgers had that first year where it was like he's not fantastic, but he was still getting the job done. And I think that was because he had players around him in veteran roles like Randall Cobb and stuff that were still, or Donald Driver was still there, I think, around him that was able to kind of get him to a point where he was ready to take over that team. And I think you're looking at Jordan Love as one of those guys where it was like, oh, Jordan Love's a joke, and now it's like I don't know, he's looking like he could be the next quarterback for the next 10 years for that
Yeah.
franchise. We'll see if that holds up this weekend. Do we know who they've got this weekend? Let me pull it up here. I think they've got another win. I think I picked them to. They have the Falcons this week. I picked them in my elimination league to get the win over the Falcons, which I think is a pretty safe move if they can stop the run game because I don't think Desmond Ritter can throw worth a crap. Um, I mean, what are your thoughts on Green Bay and how they look compared to Chicago and Minnesota and Detroit, who Detroit looked okay against the Chiefs, but I mean, Jared Goff didn't impress me that much.
I think that the Packers, they're a team that we're gonna wait to see just a little bit on what they can do. I think they played a terrible Bears team. As much as I hate to say it, I thought the Bears were gonna be good, and I don't think that's the truth.
Hmm.
So um, they played a terrible Bears team. We'll see how they fare against the Falcons. The Falcons are also kind of terrible, so I guess we won't really know about this Packers team for a while. But I can tell you that Jordan Love did look good, and by look good, I mean he didn't look bad, and that's kind of all you can ask
Yeah,
from him right now.
yeah. Um,
So I thought that they were looking okay. I thought the offensive line was playing well. I thought that the run game was good. And I thought that Christian Watson, he's going to be good for them going forward. So it's a good team. It's a good team.
yeah, I mean, the Rams took care of Seattle. Easy win for them. Geno Smith looked bad. That Seattle team did not look great. Um, Brock Purdy looked good um, in week one. But again, San Francisco wasn't really playing anybody. You look at who they were playing, and I mean, Pittsburgh, not great. Pittsburgh, not good. Kenny Pickett, not good. Um, Mike Tomlin probably going to get canned after this year, finally. I think a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans have kind of been waiting for that cord to be pulled. Um, what was your takeaway from New Orleans? Right, they get the 16-15 win um, over what I would classify as not a great. Um, um, God, who did they? Not a great Tennessee team, but a Tennessee team that a lot of people thought was going to be, fairly competitive. Of course, this is week one, Zach. Right? Like I mean, everybody can stumble week one and look bad, and then bounce back. And in the middle of the year, you look up, and Tennessee's second place in their division, and New Orleans could be, still at that 3 spot. Or they could be behind Tampa Bay if things go well for Baker Mayfield continually. But what was your takeaway from Derek Carr? I mean, he just did not look very good at all.
My takeaway was that Derek Carr did not look good, but Raheem Shaheed looked fantastic. I got him in one of my fantasy leagues, and I am happy for that because I'm going to be starting him this next week. I want to see how he looks because, goddamn, he put up 31 points on my fantasy team the other day from the bench. He's someone I picked up off waivers. So I'm very excited for him. I thought he looked fantastic. He looks fast, and he looks like the Saints wide receiver one because Michael Thomas is washed.
Ooh, I mean, so far I can't disagree. Chris Olave looks okay as he led the team in receptions and had 112 yards uh against
Yeah, he's
against
okay.
yeah, he's okay. He's okay. I think again, you're looking at a guy in Chris Olave who's that guy that can open it up for other players, right?
Yeah.
Because again, people are still going to focus on Michael Thomas a lot, even though, like you said, he's not really prime Michael Thomas. They're still going to be wary of him more than these other guys because they're so new to this team, and I think that, like you said, that opens it up for the guy you're talking about, and that kind of opens it up for Olave to have what he has right now, which is the leading number of receptions in 10. Nobody else has double-digit receptions on this team other than Chris Olave. 5 for your guy and 5 for Michael Thomas. So, I mean, he's doubling up on him, and I think that's because teams are leaving him open because they're willing to have the rookie run around instead of having these other guys that they seem, more threatened by get the football in their hands.
Yep. 100%.
Um, so let's scurry on here. Um, we've already kind of done the sportsbook stuff, so we'll go ahead and hit you up with who's drinking the Kool-Aid. We're gonna let you know right now. I'm pulling it up for you. Let's get the music rolling here as we transition into this next scene of who is drinking that Kool-Aid.
You know I want some Kool-Aid. Show the love, bro. Drink the Kool-Aid. It ain't the end, baby. It's a new day. Future's so bright, I bought some new shades. So that bottoms up. Drink the Kool-Aid.
So who's drinking the Kool-Aid? You know who it is. It's Jay Norvell, baby. He's drinking that Kool-Aid. We are
Yeah.
roasting the man, Jay Norvell. He is drinking that Kool-Aid. Let's take a look.
Wait. Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. We got to take the glasses off of and yeah, here is and exposed. Jay Norvell. When I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat off and I take my sunglasses off. Here's pictures of Jay Norvell here, folks, wearing a visor after every game when he talks to the media and talks to grown-ups. Jay Norvell drinking the Kool-Aid, Zach. Tell us more about how Jay
Uh,
Norvell is drinking this Kool-Aid.
he is drinking his own blood basically by doing that because they're gonna get stomped, murdered, slapped around, sliced up, diced up every which way by this Colorado team. And I mean, Shadir Sanders is probably gonna throw for like 6 touchdowns. I mean, it is personal. This Colorado team looks fantastic. I think they're going to smash Colorado State, and I think Jay Norvell is kind of bringing that upon himself. And you better watch out as an Oregon fan because I think next week we're going to be talking about who's drinking the Kool-Aid. It's Dan Lanning.
Oh God, don't preface that. And that is your Who's Drinking the Kool-Aid segment here, presented by me. I'm the one dishing it out, brother. Look,
Yep.
a lot of games tomorrow. Enjoy your Saturday full of college football. The slate's not fantastic, but the slate will be entertaining because you're gonna tail us, and we're gonna give you some more money. Zach, anything else to say before we head out of here for episode 46?
Fuck Texas.
That's right, you heard it here. Fuck Texas. Keep those horns down, baby. And we will catch you for episode 47. Keep stick on the ice.